I don't know if it's because we have the fishing trip coming up or something, but already for a few weeks now, ideas of the metaphor of ships and sailing and this kind of thing has been in my brain. And so, yeah, there was just some random morning where normally I wake up and have my coffee and it's all quiet because kids have not woken up yet. But then I kind of got this inspiration and I was kind of like tapping away and just started writing this. This was before I was asked, so just felt inspired. Even so, I don't have a proper title. So the title I have here is Don't Jump Ship. I didn't really like that title because it sounds a bit too like panicky and stuff, but hopefully it will make a bit of sense as I go on. So if we look at the metaphor of a ship, and I'm going to do that quite a lot, a ship can be many things. First of all, it's a vessel, it's like it contains space. It's a shelter, it's a place of safety. But it's also a vehicle, it's designed to get you to a destination in one piece. And, traversing over, it's not terrain, is it? Over the ocean would otherwise be very perilous, very cold, very difficult place to go, I guess, compared to swimming. So that's kind of the overarching theme. And so my main idea is that the metaphor of the ship can start obviously on the individual scale, but because you can think of your own life, your own choices, your values, and what you've created like that as your ship, and you're the captain of this ship. But there's levels. It's like True Father was always individual, family, tribe, nation, and goes up. So you might even want to think of it as like we're in a fleet of many ships, or maybe True Mother's the admiral. There's too many metaphors. I hope I don't just overdo it with the metaphors. There are many. But yeah, we are sailing together, and one thing that's kind of very present in my mind is thinking of our movement as a ship and what direction it's going in. The rough seas it's navigating, especially right now. And but this extends forever. You can even look at history as like the meta ship. It's kind of because history has a direction. That's one thing when you study the principle you learn, and when you study history you learn, is that it is traveling in a certain direction, and but it needs steering, it needs guiding. So yeah, but in reality, the reality of a ship is that no ship is perfect. All ships have rust, leaks, funny smells, repairs needing to be done, and so, but the basic thing that I'm trying to argue is, even if the state of your ship or ships that you're involved with, the fleet, is not as you would hope, or there are some things that need fixing or repairing or correcting, please do just repair it and connect, stay on board and fix what's broken, and steer slightly to the left or to the right if needed, and don't be like, I'll go find another ship, or don't jump overboard. Some people are very rash and they're just like, something upset me, I'm just leaving, I'm out. So that's effectively the main thing I'm hoping that we avoid. And it applies equally to each person's phase, like I said, the movement, and yeah, in making reference to storms and stuff, like I don't need to name the obvious storms that we face today and that True Mother is especially facing right now. But I will say that, again, if you do pay attention to history, and perhaps especially Christian history and history of Jewish people as well, then there are so many times, I guess especially early on, that you're thinking, how is this ship not already sunk? This is officially sunk. Like if you went to early Christianity and you see what they were doing to Christians, and there were so few, but how brutally they were treated, you would think this surely is a Titanic iceberg moment. Like, how can there be something after this?
Yeah.
But yeah, there have been many icebergs and many storms, and Christianity is still here. We're still here, continuing that story. And yeah, that's remarkable, and we're a part of that heritage. So yeah, and many times God's will can look like it has hit an iceberg or very rough seas, but I'm sure that this is really mostly a human perspective of things. We freak out a lot, we all know we do. And a lot of the times it looks like we're facing failure, and we want to quit or we freak out, but God does not quit, and His will continues, and through everything we can see that. And it's easier to see when you look. It's easy for historians, they just look and be like, yes, surely this will happen and this will lead to this. But for the people living in history, being part of history, they were running around like headless chickens and freaking out.
Yeah.
So, and yeah, there's one of the kind of, I guess it's not funny, it wasn't funny for them at the time. I somehow found it funny when I read it, the story where the disciples and Jesus are on this ship, this boat, I think probably a fishing vessel.
Yeah.
And yeah, they're freaking out. There's a storm comes, and then Jesus is literally sleeping, having a nap. And then they go to him and, are you just gonna let us die? What's going on here?
Yeah.
And then he's like, fine, gets up, and he's like, he basically shouts down the storm, like, quiet, be still. And then it's all calm. and then that's the famous one. I think Uncle Dale, you mentioned your mum was always using this one, like, ye of little faith. So that's where that came from. And so yeah, it's difficult sometimes to keep that perspective, and to stay calm. But I mean, that's what it helps when Jesus is your captain. And yeah, so you can also think of ships, and I mentioned the smallest possible ship is the individual, but things as they get bigger, and obviously an individual, like a small boat, it can turn on itself, a dinghy or something, or even one of those rings if you want to count that. Some flotation, you're very flexible, you can change direction easily, but like I say, being part of a bigger boat, you could consider maybe this region in the north as a larger vessel. It's not the biggest, but we know from experience that even if it just gets a little bit bigger, it's harder to steer it. You need more people. You need people. Some people on the big sail, some people on the small sail, and and then if you talk about our national movement, our global movement, as we go up the scale, you might get frustrated that it's like, we should clearly change course. Why aren't we? But then you'll speak to leadership and be like, I've been trying to change course for 3 years or something, and this is a reality, but it calls for a lot of patience, but it's worth doing. And I feel like whilst you know, I'm quite an individualistic person. I'm quite also clan oriented, or whatever you could say, the Jones clan. And you know, like my small network of like ties or connections, I still do identify and care about the larger scale, and I do care about God's will in this movement, and you know, other things besides. And yeah, I do feel like there is safety in a larger ship as well. If you're going to encounter a storm, you don't want to be in a dinghy. You don't want to be entirely doing your own thing. It helps to be part of something bigger, and you know, part of a bigger crew. And yeah, so kind of relating back to what Uncle Dale was saying last week, in terms of alignment, and you were even speaking of compasses, that's another one of the main things I want to speak about, is to be patient and to be satisfied that even if you made a tiny correction in your course, then you should be happy, because this is also how sailing works. Is if you change by 1 millimeter, it could change the destination that you're heading towards by many miles. You can completely miss your destination if you were like 1 degree east or west wrong. And so it's something that requires continual small adjustment, and so that should be our attitude as well, I believe. And so I think it doesn't just apply in the, you know, the movement, like the most fundamental or the most impactful changes you can make even as an individual is to do something very small and more regularly, more frequently. If you have a daily habit, daily 100k, daily go to the gym, you know, there are many examples. Just watch how quickly those things compound, and yeah, you'll be really surprised. I kind of recently stumbled upon, could say recently, I think when I first stumbled upon it, it was in Manchester, but there's this proverb that inspires me a lot, and recently I've rediscovered it. But when I first found it, it was actually in a reading room at Manchester University, not Manchester University, Manchester Library. There's this really beautiful reading room, and it has a huge dome, and around the dome there's Proverbs 4, and it says, "Get wisdom," and you know, it basically has this quote going all around, and I was like, I don't know what that is, but it sounds epic. I will find this, and then I did, and found out there was the Bible, which made me kind of happy, because I'm like, this is Manchester, and we have a Bible cut there, and then like go for another walk, you'll see the Marx statue. Okay. But that's often the way things go, is that in this kind of crucible, or this kind of, you know, this is where the Industrial Revolution started. It's where Marxism effectively has its roots. A lot of change, like huge global historical change, started here. So that's really significant. So, you know, when you're teaching the principle, and you know, you're going through the historical part, and it's talking about like, yes, and then Industrial Revolution, and then, you know, and then the reasons why communism was appealing, and all these things. That was like, that's right here. That was the seeds of that was right here. So it's a super historical, super significant place to be witnessing. And wouldn't it be so cool if that's also the seed of where, you know, the more principled side of things can also take root.
Yeah. Amen.
So, so anyway, I was speaking of this proverb, and it's about getting wisdom. So in a nutshell, I think for me, that's like an overarching principle that you could apply in any situation, and I believe it will be a way to always get back on course. When people are sailing, when they're talking about finding their way, they often talk about the North Star.
Right.
So there's this fixed point that they always can reorient to. When they're lost or disoriented, they'll be like, oh, find the star, there it is. Then you know where you are, then you know which direction you're going in. So this super important concept to have something that's always there that you can rely on. One of my North Stars, especially at the moment, is this particular proverb. And I've been literally like writing it, jotting it down repeatedly in recent weeks, and it really resonates with me. And it's actually advice from a father to a son. That father being King David,
Right.
the son being King Solomon. And I was wondering if, before you sit down, Dad, I was wondering, could you perhaps read this passage from me later this year?
Yeah.
Just thought it would be quite fitting since it is from a dad to a son.
No worries. The green stuff.
The green.
Alright, morning everybody. Okay, so take hold of my words with all your heart. Keep my commands, and you will live. Get wisdom, get understanding. Do not forget my words or turn away from them. Do not forsake wisdom, and she will protect you. Love her, and she will watch over you. Get wisdom, though it cost all you have. Get understanding. Cherish her, and she will exalt you. Embrace her, and she will honor you. Listen, my son, accept what I say, and the years of your life will be many. I instruct you in the way of wisdom and lead you along straight paths. When you walk, your steps will not be hampered. When you run, you will not stumble. Hold on to instruction. Do not let it go. Guard it well, for it is your life. The path of righteousness is like the morning sun, shining ever brighter till the full light of day. But the way of the wicked is like deep darkness. They do not know what makes them stumble. My son, pay attention to what I say. Turn your ear to my words. Do not let them out of your sight. Keep them within your heart, for they are life to those who find them, and health to one's whole body. Above all else, guard your heart, for everything you do flows from it.
I'm slightly obsessed with that passage. These days. I like I say, I repeatedly keep writing on it, and the Bible has different versions as well, depending how epic you want it to sound. You can go full New King James, and it's just like super biblical, super epic, or you can be like, I didn't quite understand that, and you can change the version. But this idea of a North Star is very important to me, and like I say, one of the principal ones for me is I'm trying to become wiser. I'm trying to get wisdom. I'm trying to get knowledge. Knowledge and wisdom not being the same thing, but the more you learn, and especially the more you study principle, things fall into place. And yeah, I feel like the more you learn, the more principle makes sense. That's been my experience. So yeah, you know, sailors, they don't stare at the waves. They fix on a stable point, and you know, they use that to guide themselves. Of course, we're trying to make God be the North Star. If we could just look up and, you know, see what God wants, we would do that. It's not always that easy. You could also see it as being similar to like a map. So I feel like the divine principle is like a really good map. It kind of lays the ground, you know where you stand, but even with a map, it kind of, if we're talking about the ocean, metaphorically speaking and literally speaking, there's always changes and currents and winds and storms. Pirates, maybe, I don't know. Like, there's a lot that changes all the time. So even if you had a map, you would still need to find a way to apply it to your own life, whatever ship you're actually sailing, for example. And you'd probably have to make notes on it and stuff to fit your own situation that you're in as well. And everyone's journey is different. Like, if you had 100 ships and you'd be like, okay, we're going there, and then we're in a complete agreement, okay, yeah, we're going there. Just watch what everyone's journey actually looks like if you tracked it. It's gonna be all over the place, probably. And you'll cross, is like, the expression like ships passing in the night. You'll meet wonderful people, you'll be like, oh, hi, bye, and you don't know if you'll ever meet someone again, but then you do. So it's all very quite mysterious, and it's part of life. It's also beautiful. And yeah, and speaking of rough seas, and I'm hopefully going to this fishing trip, but I'm a little bit nervous because I do get seasick. I do have motion sickness, and so that's kind of in my life. Like, I have to navigate, if I'm traveling or whatever, I have to always bear in mind that I do not travel well. So, and I was thinking, like, again, another metaphor that came to me was that of seasickness or like nausea, because effectively it's when you feel unbalanced and you feel kind of, it's actually in the ear, getting confused and stuff, but there are parallels again with faith, because how many times have we felt disoriented or realized like, oh, hang on, I thought I was in this direction, I'm actually not at all. And also being honest at times, like I don't know, I imagine many in this room, but certainly myself, I remember when something you believe or something you think you've always known is shaken, or if you've ever had struggles in your faith or confusion, it's rough. Like, I remember literally feeling on a certain moments when I was kind of really confronted by something, I felt sick. Like, I felt it in my midst, in my gut. I was like, I felt really disoriented. It feels really like seasickness, actually. But being someone that has always struggled with this, I've learned kind of more tips and stuff about how to deal with it. Yeah. And again, the metaphors keep coming, because what do you do when you're sick on the boat, for example? Or how do you prevent being sick?
You look at the horizon.
You should look at the horizon. So it comes up again, like, if you don't want to vomit, you need to fix your gaze. Like, don't look all around you and confuse yourself and spin around. Look, fix on the horizon. And funnily enough, you should go to the center of the boat. So this might seem counterintuitive. You might be like, I have problems with my faith, or I have problems with the movement, or this or that. But if anything, when you do that, you should go right smack bang in the middle. You should come into the center of the boat. That's what you should do. So you shouldn't go like, you shouldn't drift away further and further to the side, the edge of the boat. You'll feel really, really bad. And another thing that you should definitely never do is lie down. I found that quite interesting. Like, people don't know that. And I remember Dad was telling a story about this Japanese brother on the Ocean Church, and he was feeling really bad. And so, and your instinct when you're feeling bad, you might want to lie down. Absolutely do not do that. So it's just kind of funny that it is a parallel. Like, if you are struggling, the best thing you can do is actually come back to community, connect more, go right into the middle. If you have a problem with something, dive in, don't drift off. Go, even seek out the center, and stay on your feet. So, you know, if it's your family, if there's some difficulty in your family, try to unite with them and try to be surrounded by your family more and more. Sprite is also good. Sprite and crackers, but that's not a metaphor. But over time as well, it's kind of a talent that or a skill that you develop. They call it sea legs. So the more you're on boats, the more you kind of just naturally, you know, adjust to the motion, and like eventually you don't even realize, and then you come back off the boat, go onto land, and you're like, oh, you almost fall over because your legs have changed, you've adapted to it. And I think the same thing applies in life to many things, but I think also in faith it can apply quite obviously too. Like, you know, I'm approaching 40, so I've kind of seen some things in our movement. All the brothers and sisters have seen even more, and yeah, you sometimes kind of feel like, oh, if this happened to if my younger self was encountered with this situation, they'd have just fallen over or thrown up. Like, you know, it would have been too much. But the more that you have practiced reorienting yourself and reconnecting to community and your values and, you know, learning and wisdom and stuff, the more you realize that you've gained this ability that whatever life throws at you, you keep your balance. And I think that's super important. I think that's a lot about maturity. But yeah, it's a skill that you can definitely learn. And yeah, your true father was really, really so into the ocean. He'd spent so long out at sea. And yeah, he'd have like very deep reflection there, and yeah, I don't think it's a coincidence at all that he sought out the ocean. And one more kind of concept is, we talked a bit about storms and stuff. What about when it's the complete opposite? What about when nothing is happening? There's no wind, there's no waves. It's just, you know, a ship can't sail when there's no wind. And in the past, all ships were sail ships, except they could also paddle as well. But there's this thing called the doldrums. And these days, when someone talks about being in the doldrums, they are talking more about being sad or depressed, or having no energy and just kind of, you know, down in the doldrums. But it used to be just a nautical term, and it was, for example, when you're trying to sail to India, and then you find this patch of water, and you'd be like, now we just have to wait, like nothing's happening now. And so, like metaphorically, when people talk about that these days, they're normally talking that they're just in a bad mood, they just feel no inspiration, they can't move. No winds, no nothing happening. So in our own lives, we might be times when we're not feeling motivated, feeling like there's no particular direction, but at the same time, you know, this stillness, it doesn't have to be a bad thing. You don't have to beat yourself up either when your life is not full of action and you're not doing amazing things all the time. You need these calm periods as well. And you can definitely do them right. And, you know, it can be a time of recovery, recalibration, self-examination, reflection, obviously prayer. And yeah, one thing that I remember is a recurring theme when you read the True Father, when he's talking, that when God speaks to you, it'll be a whisper. It's going to be quiet. It'll probably just settle here. And I mean, I think God can also speak to you in like action and crazy times as well. And you know, that's what probably some of these guys are realizing as well. When you really go out there and you give of yourself, then also God clearly reveals himself. But yeah, you need those quiet periods. And you know, oftentimes people only enter them because they are sad. Like people retire away, take a step back, and they probably feel quite bad about it sometimes. But they can be very, very important. And I would suggest that if you do find yourself kind of nowhere, kind of just like, I'm drifting, where am I? Then use that time and try to actually clear your head, try to clear clutter, like mental clutter, emotional clutter, write things down, do some journaling, get off social media, and you know, just do something about the noise that is buzzing around your head, because then maybe you'll hear when God's trying to speak to you, because God will whisper. So, and don't judge people. Like, why is this person not doing anything? Why is he inactive? Or whatever. Just, you know, someone might be in the doldrums. So be kind, be understanding, be patient, and then maybe come gently rowing up when the time's right. Go alongside them and have a chat and see if they want to come aboard again slowly. When you are in that kind of flat spot, these days you can have an outboard motor, but I think it is just very accurate as well that these things, they're loud, they're not very impressive, and they just about get the boat moving again. So they are a backup option, but you know, to me it is like the two ways I kind of thought about it is that this could represent, for example, our good habits. Like I don't know if it's something we just keep saying, me and Dad, but we talk about just chugging away. So it's just kind of just slowly, like this loud, smelly motor just kind of and you're going very slow, but you are moving. And so this might be kind of symbolic of always doing your 100k, trying to pray every day, or trying to live for the sake of others every day, or doing little things, but all the time. And this might be your way out of the doldrums. And but I think it can also just symbolize certain types of people, like that, or like character traits. There are some people that are just always there, and those are very special people, and we should value those people. Like you know, regardless of if you know they're supremely talented or skilled or have you know obvious huge things to offer. We really need these people that are kind of like the outboard motors that just, you can just rely on them to always be there and just chipping away. I try to be like that. And yeah, I have too many metaphors and not enough time.
Don't worry, keep going.
But one thing I wrote down as well was about when you are sailing. If you've never sailed, try it. It's fun. I've done it like only a couple of times, but there was like brother down in Cornwall that was helping us do it, audits and stuff. But when you sail like one of these smaller boats, maybe just like, I think it's kind of similar size of this room, or like from the bookshelf. Well, we were on this boat, and there's two sails actually, and you kind of have to jump on one and like turn the direction so that it's catching the wind and stuff. But then the bigger sail, that's much bigger, so it can, if any wind goes in, it's like woof, it fills up very quickly, and that's when the boat starts going even too fast. And I remember Mike was holding on to like the edge of the boat, and he's kind of skimming off the water, like because it leaned so much. And but this longer sail, it's on a big pole. It's called the boom. And I don't know if it's actually true, but the person teaching us said it's called the boom because if you're too slow, it comes swinging back and it booms into your head. And that almost happened to us as well. So yeah, I think also in life of faith, life generally, things can change quickly, almost too quickly sometimes, and you have to be on your toes because otherwise you might get smacked around the head. And so yeah, it can go like doldrums, nothing, and then suddenly everything's happening. And but yeah, that's part of the excitement of it. And yeah, I guess circling back to the title or whatever, about not abandoning the ship. It's something that kind of really, it's kind of something that personally affects me quite a bit. I find it extremely sad when people just drift away. So, and it is really like drifting away. It's the oftentimes when people leave, you could say, the church or the movement, it is kind of like they just drifted off in the night. It's like you wake up one day, it's like, where's this person? Oh, they just took a boat. They just took one of the lifeboats and they just quietly rode off in the night. And they're like, but how? Like, they never said anything. They just disappeared. And to me, that's just really sad. And I'd like to, well, honestly, I think I know part of the reason is because conversation and discussing things that matter is tricky, it's difficult. And, you know, for another kind of cheesy or whatever expression is like, you know, people don't want to rock the boat. Like, there's way too many expressions and metaphors, but people don't want to rock the boat. You know, they don't want to be seen as a troublemaker or like a negative person. Like, how many times have you heard like, oh, he's negative? Like, yeah. So it's not useful at all to label people that way or treat people that way. And you know, we need to talk a lot more, and we need to talk about tricky things more, especially like you know, people have valid questions and stuff, and if the signal that they're receiving is like, don't go there, then I feel like these are the people that often they will eventually drift. But this is not the way that God's taught us. And if you ever studied the Bible, it's not really like that. Like, the way that God speaks to His chosen people and God's chosen people speak to God, it's fiery. There's so many arguments. Like, I was recently watching a sermon and it was about actually how horizontal things were and should be with God. like Moses was really just like, what the heck, God, kill me now. Like he was like, I cannot do this. These people, I can't, he basically had enough with the chosen people. He's like, no, these guys are not for me. I'm not their mom, I think he said, basically. Like, he's just like, he said, just kill me, just put me out of my misery. So he's having a nervous breakdown to God, and then, but then obviously God is consoling him, and he's just like, no, you got this, and blah blah blah. And then there's like but it was fully a complaint. It wasn't like, God, would you kindly please just little break here? Just like, what the God, like, and then on the flip side, almost the exact reverse situation later, where God was like, please people, let me wipe them out. And like, I like you, Moses, but these people, I've had enough. And then Moses was like, what kind of God is that? How can you say that? And they had an argument. It was not polite. So I'm not saying let's have like a big shouting match with each other and stuff, but there needs to be actual genuine communication, often uncomfortable but important. Things need to be aired, and we shouldn't shy away from like real communication and arguing, I guess. Yeah, because I would much rather someone like offend me and challenge me or be rude to me, but we're trying to work on important things, we're trying to dig away and scratch and find the truth, than to just drift away. Yeah, and my personal kind of appraisal based on that is, there's people in this room I've known forever, but there's also so many people I've never had a proper conversation with. That's on me, but I feel like, why is it that I don't really know how these people, how they work, how they, what they really believe, what they feel, how they take. It's not good enough, and I want to do better. I'm an introvert, so the fact that I'm here is already like, this is a sacrifice, please know this. But yeah, also like to reach out to you and actually more and more understand that we are family. These are your brothers and sisters, uncles, aunties. How can you know nothing about your uncle and your auntie? I've known some, like, this is just me, like, hopefully you guys are better, but I've known some of you for 20 years and I've not had a proper chat with you, so it's not good enough. And yeah, so I think I will call it there. It's not a perfect ship, but let's work on it together. Let's at least stay in the same fleet. Let's repair these leaks, and let's just keep always trying to reorient ourselves and make the little adjustments as necessary. And let's do it together fundamentally.